Hi everybody, it's Tatiana and this is The Queen of the Night by Alexandra Chee. I was debating about whether or not I was going to do a review for this book, and then I just decided that I was going to do one because I hadn't been able to get my thoughts together enough to write them down like in my book journal, and then all of a sudden it came together today. So here we go. I'm going to give you the kind of synopsis that I was given or that I heard that made me want to purchase and read the book. The main character's name is Lilliet Byrne. She is an opera singer who is extremely famous in France in the 1800s, but the pinnacle of popularity when you have reached diva status is when a composer writes an opera that they want you to be the first person to sing. So basically they write the opera, they compose the opera for your voice. And she has wanted that to happen, and it finally does happen. And when she gets the libretto, it is all of her dirty laundry. There are only 4 people who know this information, and so it's a hunt to try and find out who blabbed. That's all that I'm going to give. Because that's what I got, and that was enough for me to be interested. I have my background, my degree is in music education. I was classically trained when I was in college, and I really do enjoy music history, although I don't excel at it, but I excel at music history better than I did American history, and this book is really heavy, so I'm going to sit it down. That is what made me want to read the book. Having said that, do I think this is a book for everybody? No, and here's why. While it is set in the 1800s in France, there's not a lot of setting of the scene, so to speak, that takes place as far as you being able to picture and get a good idea in your mind of what the area that she lives in or the areas that she travels through, what they look like. There's a lot more focus, which is typically the case for literary fiction, and this is like literary historical fiction. There's a lot more focus on the actual characters in the story as opposed to the setup or environment. I don't want to say world building because it's historical fiction, so it's not like a world that she has created. It's set in this world. Also, there's a lot of phrases and like quips that are said in the story in French, and for someone who doesn't speak French, it took me out of the actual narrative of the story a lot because I had to backtrack in some places to try and figure out what was being said, because in some places translation is given for some of the longer things that are said in French, and then in some places there's no translation given at all. So you have to try and figure it out or pull up Google Translate to figure out what the hell is being said, and that took me out of the story a lot. But what I really did enjoy about the story is because it is set in this time period where opera is it's growing in popularity, and that's how people entertained themselves or were entertained. They went to the opera or they held salons, and in those salons you had performances that took place of people who were in opera or in the orchestra. And so because it's set in that kind of time frame, there are a lot of references to composers and operas that I am very familiar with. It gives you the storyline of some of the operas that I mentioned in the novel, as well as the connection that the main character Lilliet makes with some of those operas. It gives you some of the terminologies and things of music and the type of tone and timbre that her voice has that makes her special in the opera community during that time period, and helps her know what to look for and what roles to try and get for herself that would be beneficial to her voice, so that she would be able to bring forth the best. And then also it talks about like some of the typecasting that can take place with the type of voice that you have, tragic soprano and the heroic tenor and all of that. that I very mumuch enjoyed. It's set in the time period that's like right after the passing of Mozart, during the life of Verdi, and the life right before the death of Bizet, and those things I really, really enjoyed. But the story itself wasn't something that necessarily kept my attention, partly because of some of the switches, and it wasn't like frequent, but it was enough. Some of the switches from, you know, to French for short phrases that were beyond yes, which is pretty much, for the most part, what I know in French, and je t'aime. Beyond that, you lost your chick. Also, as far as the story goes, once the person who actually blabs is introduced, I knew that that was the person who blabbed. So, yeah, that part of it, I guess, it was enjoyable for me to read their story, but the mystery was over at that point. And it was just really, you know, trying to see how this all ends, where it all comes to. I also enjoyed the story itself of Liliet. You get her from childhood and being this almost prodigy to becoming a teenager and an adult, and the things that she has to deal with that would be very scary now, much less in the 1800s, and her struggle to deal with and cope with some of the hardships that she comes across, as well as some of the people that she has to deal with, the hard lessons that she learns in life because she makes stupid decisions, which is typical of people when they are thrust into situations that they don't fully understand, but the stupid decisions that she makes and how that kind of pigeonholes and jacks her up, well, from one situation to another, and then somehow she still manages to rise above some of this stuff and make a name for herself. And that part of it I enjoy. So again, if you can't tell from this review, the book was kind of a mixed bag for me. I can't really recommend it because I don't know who this would appeal to, unless you're someone like me who enjoys music history and enjoys opera and like those little things. Like Franz Schubert is one of my favorite composers of all time. That's what this time frame is set into. So if that's something that intrigues you or appeals to you, then this might be a good book for you. But if you are looking for something that is plot driven more so than character driven, not for you. This is very much more character driven, in my opinion. And if you have read this and you are someone who reads literary fiction more than I do, and you disagree with me, let's have a discussion about that in the comments below, because I've said before, I don't read a lot of literary fiction, and it's a slower read for me. I thought this was a slower read, but I actually finished this in about 8 days. So it wasn't as slow as I thought it was. It just felt like a slow read. It's a mixed bag. I'm going to leave the review at it's a mixed bag, and that's what I liked and what I didn't necessarily care for as far as the book goes. So yeah, that's all that I have for today. Now I'm going to go edit this. Am I tripping over myself time and time again? Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good weekend whenever you see this video. Peace out.